Most men believe that winning requires force, loud arguments, or dominant posturing. They exhaust themselves, trying desperately to project this fake alpha energy. But have you ever noticed a strange phenomenon? The man who commands the absolute most respect in any given room is almost always the quietest. He doesn't demand your attention. He naturally attracts it. Success, respect, and women don't need to be chased by him. They gravitate toward him. This isn't magic. It is the silent, lethal edge of emotional intelligence. Today, we aren't talking about soft, sentimental feelings. We are decoding the exact psychological framework that allows dangerously smart, high-value men to win negotiations, dominate relationships, and master life without ever breaking a sweat. If you want to unlock the hidden code of human behavior and master your reality, hit that subscribe button right now. Let's start with the most immediate and dangerous weapon in the emotionally intelligent man's arsenal: the strategic pause. Most modern men operate on a hair trigger. Someone insults them, they snap back instantly. A car cuts them off, they explode into road rage. A woman pulls away, their anxiety spikes, and they chase. This is the behavior of a leaf blown helplessly by the wind, entirely reactive and fundamentally weak. The high EQ man operates in a completely different reality. He masters the crucial gap between a trigger and his action. As the psychiatrist and Holocaust survivor Viktor Frankl profoundly noted, between stimulus and response, there is a space. In that space is our power to choose our response. In our response lies our growth and our freedom. Imagine a high-stakes boardroom meeting. Tensions are boiling over. A rival executive, let's call him Mark, starts raising his voice, throwing aggressive accusations, trying his best to rattle the CEO David. Mark is red-faced, loud, and aggressive. The entire room holds its breath, waiting for David to shout back. But David does nothing. He simply maintains unbreakable eye contact. His face is relaxed, his breathing deep and steady. He waits for 3 full seconds after Mark finishes his rant. The silence becomes incredibly heavy, almost suffocating for Mark. When David finally opens his mouth, his voice is calm, low, and perfectly modulated. Are you done ventriloquizing your anxiety, Mark? Or do you have a solution? In that single moment, Mark looks like an emotional child, and David looks like a king. This is the pause in action. As the ancient Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. When you pause, you completely short-circuit the other person's expectations. They expect a fight, you give them a dark void. This forces them to over-explain, stumble on their own words, and reveal their hand. But this goes much deeper than just business negotiations. In your personal life, the pause is the exact difference between a bitter breakup and a massive breakthrough. When you feel that surge of anger, your primitive amygdala wants to hijack the controls. The dangerously smart man recognizes this physiological spike. He feels that heat in his chest, but he observes it like a passing cloud, not a command. He wins without trying, because while others are exhausting themselves fighting their own emotions, he is channeling his energy into calculated, precise action. He controls the pace of reality, simply because he controls the pace of his own mind. When we hear the word empathy, the average man completely tunes out. He immediately equates it with being soft, weak, or overly sentimental. But in the realm of the dangerously smart man, empathy is absolutely not about being nice. It is tactical data gathering. It is X-ray vision into the human psyche. It is the lethal ability to see the hidden, subconscious motivations driving the people around you. If you can understand exactly why someone is acting the way they are, you can dismantle their defenses or align them to your will with zero friction. Consider the mindset of a master hostage negotiator. He doesn't win by shooting his way out. He wins by aggressively listening. There was a famous case where a man was threatening to jump off a bridge, freezing traffic for hours. Heavily armed police shouted demands, but the man ignored all of them. Then, an emotionally intelligent negotiator arrived on the scene. He didn't yell. He walked up calmly, took off his own jacket because it was freezing, and simply said, "It looks like you've been carrying the weight of the world for a long time. That must be exhausting." The man on the ledge broke down in tears. He didn't need forceful orders. He desperately needed to feel seen. The negotiator won. He saved a life and cleared a bridge without a single weapon. The dangerously smart man applies this exact framework to dating, business, and daily life. When a woman acts difficult or throws a test, the average man gets immediately defensive. The high EQ man looks right through the behavior. He asks himself, what is she actually afraid of right now? He realizes her coldness isn't a personal attack. It's a shield to prevent getting hurt. By surgically addressing the underlying fear, rather than reacting to the surface behavior, he disarms her instantly. As the psychologist Alfred Adler wrote, empathy is seeing with the eyes of another, listening with the ears of another, and feeling with the heart of another. When you possess this rare skill, you stop taking the world personally. The rude waiter isn't attacking your ego. He's just overwhelmed. The micromanaging boss isn't an evil mastermind. He's terrified of his own incompetence. When you finally see the truth behind the mask, you stop fighting ghosts. You navigate complex social hierarchies with the terrifying ease of a grandmaster chess player who knows his opponent's next 3 moves before they even touch a piece. You win because you are playing the game with the lights on, while everyone else is stumbling blindly in the dark. This brings us to a massive paradox in male psychology that very few will ever understand. The man who tries the absolute hardest to look perfect is almost always the one who is the most fragile. We have all met this guy. He can never, under any circumstances, admit he's wrong. He boasts constantly about his money, his cars, and acts like he possesses 0 fears. Instinctively, we all know he is hiding a deep, hollow insecurity. He is weak. The emotionally intelligent man flips this script entirely. He weaponizes vulnerability, using it not as a weakness, but as the ultimate, impenetrable armor. Think about why a character like Tony Stark resonates so deeply. It's not just the billionaire suit. It's the fact that he openly admits his catastrophic flaws. He admits his anxiety. He admits when he is dead wrong. When a man is comfortable enough in his own skin to look someone dead in the eye and say, I messed up, or I honestly don't know the answer to that, he becomes completely untouchable. You literally cannot insult a man who owns his flaws, because he has already accepted them long before you ever noticed them. Let's look at a brutal real-world scenario. 2 men are on a first date. Man A spends the entire evening sweating, trying desperately to impress the woman. He lists his achievements, brags about his gym routine, and tries way too hard to project alpha status. It feels forced, stiff, and ultimately feels like a stressful job interview. Man B sits back, breathes, laughs, and tells a self-deprecating story about how he completely embarrassed himself during a massive presentation last week. He laughs at his own expense. He is relaxed. Who is the woman instantly more attracted to? Man B, every single time. Why? Because his complete willingness to expose a flaw subconsciously signals incredibly high status. It subcommunicates to the world, I am so utterly confident in my core value that I don't need to hide my mistakes. As researcher Brené Brown perfectly stated, vulnerability sounds like truth and feels like courage. Truth and courage aren't always comfortable, but they are never weakness. Winning without trying means you stop wasting your finite energy maintaining a fragile, fake persona. It takes an exhausting amount of calorie-burning effort to wear a mask all day. The dangerously smart man simply drops the mask. He is ruthlessly authentic. In business, clients will always trust the man who says, this product might actually be wrong for you, over the desperate salesman who promises it's perfect when it isn't. By being unapologetically real, he wins the long, lucrative game of reputation and respect, while the tryhards are eventually exposed as frauds. Conflict is inevitable. Suffering, however, is completely optional. Most men view conflict as a primitive battle of egos, where one person must dominate and the other must submit. This is a low EQ, brute force approach that burns bridges and creates lifelong enemies. The emotionally intelligent man views conflict entirely differently. He views it like a masterclass in psychological judo. In judo, you never block your opponent's strike with opposing force. You take their aggressive momentum and use it to effortlessly flip them. This is achieved through a lethal conversational technique known as the validation loop. When someone attacks you verbally, they expect massive resistance. Resistance gives them something solid to push against. Instead, the dangerously smart man agrees with the emotion, even if he completely rejects the facts. Imagine a wife is furious at her husband for working late. She yells, "You care more about your job than this family." The defensive, low EQ man immediately yells back, "I'm doing this for the family. You're completely ungrateful." Now, they are in a destructive war. The high EQ man uses verbal judo. He listens, takes a strategic pause, and says, "It sounds like you're feeling abandoned, and you're terrified we're drifting apart. Is that right?" Suddenly, the entire fight is over. He didn't apologize for working. He has a mission to fulfill and a purpose to chase. But he completely validated her underlying feeling. The wind instantly leaves her sails. She collapses into the truth of the emotion. As the legendary martial artist Bruce Lee stated, "Be like water making its way through cracks. Do not be assertive, but adjust to the object, and you shall find a way around or through it." This works identically in the boardroom. When a client is furious about a massive delay, you don't make pathetic excuses. You say, "You have every single right to be furious. I would be incredibly frustrated too if I were in your position. Let's fix this right now." By aligning yourself with them against the external problem, you instantly turn an opponent into a partner. You win the conflict simply by removing the enemy. You haven't tried to dominate them. You have effortlessly maneuvered them to your side of the table. One of the biggest reasons average men lose in life is because they're absolute slaves to external validation. They post on social media begging for likes. They buy cars they cannot afford to impress people they do not even like. They constantly shift their core opinions just to fit into a worm. This reeks of a sickening desperation. The emotionally intelligent man has completely severed the puppet strings of public opinion. He wins without trying because he is playing for an audience of exactly one, himself. This is the absolute core of quiet, unshakable confidence. When you deeply know your own value, you never feel the urge to broadcast it. Think of the lion on the savannah. The lion does not walk through the grass, barking wildly like a small, insecure dog to prove he is dangerous. The lion walks slowly. He sleeps 20 hours a day. He knows exactly what he is. There is an ancient Stoic story of a young monk who was brutally insulted by a passerby. The stranger even spat on him. The monk simply wiped it off his face and kept walking. His students were furious, demanding to know why he didn't defend his honor. The monk calmly replied, "If someone offers you a gift and you do not accept it, to whom does the gift belong?" The students answered, "It belongs to the giver." The monk nodded, "Exactly. He offered me his anger, and I refused to accept it. It remains his." This is the untouchable level of the high EQ man. He dictates his own reality. High EQ does not mean being a weak pushover. It requires the lethal ability to set ruthless boundaries, but to do so with effortless grace. This is the velvet rope concept. An exclusive nightclub doesn't need ugly barbed wire to keep the wrong people out. It has a simple velvet rope and a bouncer who speaks politely but firmly. The high-value man knows his time and energy are his most fiercely protected resources. He does not let toxic people dump their garbage on him. He says a firm, professional no that leaves zero room for argument. Warren Buffett once said that the difference between successful people and really successful people is that really successful people say no to almost everything. When you respect your own boundaries, the rest of the world has no choice but to follow your lead. We have decoded the strategic pause, tactical empathy, weaponized vulnerability, psychological judo, and ruthless boundaries. But the true, terrifying power lies in exactly how these traits compound over a decade. Emotional intelligence is not some cheap hack for a quick, temporary win. It is a calculated lifestyle that builds an undeniable legacy. Think of your life as a massive garden. The low EQ man is constantly stomping on his own crops with uncontrolled anger, flooding them with deep insecurity, or neglecting them with a total lack of awareness. He sweats and toils, but destroys his reality as fast as he builds it. The dangerously smart man is the wise architect of his environment. He doesn't try to violently force the plant to grow by ripping it upward. He creates the perfect, optimal conditions for growth and steps back while nature takes its course. Over 10 years, the difference is astronomical. He has a network of powerful, loyal allies because he actually listened to them. He has a thriving, passionate relationship because he navigated conflict with surgical precision. He commands a loyal team because he led with unbreakable vision. He wins the ultimate game of life entirely because he played the long game. As Aristotle claimed, we are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. When you finally stop reacting and start commanding, you enter an unstoppable flow state. Opportunities fall into your lap. Elite circles open their doors. Wealth flows to you because people implicitly trust you to hold it. You aren't forcing the door open, you're holding the master key. The next time you feel the heat of anger, the sting of rejection, or the crushing pressure to perform, simply stop. Remember that dark, powerful space between stimulus and response. That is exactly where your kingdom lies. You do not need to be the loudest or the most aggressive man in the room to win. You simply need to be the most aware. If you are ready to master your mind and elevate your entire reality, hit subscribe and turn on notifications. We are building a global community of dangerously smart men who win the right way.